Welcome to the Customer Wins podcast, where business leaders discuss their secrets and techniques for helping their customers succeed and in turn grow their business.
Hi, I'm Rich Walker, the host of the Customer Wins, where I talk to business leaders about how they help their customers win and how their focus on customer experience leads to growth. Past guests have included Mark Butler of Mark Butler Consulting and Blake Wood of Lumient. Today, I'm speaking with Geoff Moore, the CIO for Valmark Financial Group. And today's episode is brought to you by Quik, the leader in enterprise forms automation. When the last step to earning your client's business requires filling out paperwork, don't ruin a good relationship with a bad experience. Instead, get Quik Forms to make filling out forms a great experience and the easiest part of your transaction. Visit quickforms.com to get started. Before I introduce today's guest, I want to give a big thank you to Chip Kispert of Beacon Strategies. Go check out their website at beaconstrategiesllc.com and the amazing industry roundtables that we host, which is where I met Geoff. So now I'd like to introduce Geoff. As the Chief Information Officer of Information Technology for the Valmark Financial Group, Geoff Moore leads a team of experts who use technology to solve business challenges and manage the cybersecurity of Valmark and its member firms. He has served on multiple industry committees such as FSI's Operations Tech Council. In 2020, the Valmark MyCase team was a runner-up for Tech Team of the Year for the Greater Cleveland Partnership. In 2022, he was selected to the Surge Ventures Industry Council for his expertise in cybersecurity for financial service firms. That's awesome. When he's not testing out the latest technology, and I know he loves to, he loves CrossFit, hiking, and listening to his children perform music. Geoff, welcome to the Customer Wins.
Thanks, Rich. Thank you for that introduction.
Okay, now, if you haven't heard this podcast before, I talk with business leaders about what they're doing to help their customers win, how they built and deliver a great customer experience, and the challenges to growing their own company. Geoff, I want to understand your business a little better. How does your company help people?
Yes, I work for the Valmark Financial Group. We're an independent broker-dealer, RIA, broker general agency. So we help people that are independent financial advisors help their clients with better financial plans, better products to help just make overall financial services better for them.
That's great. I don't know if you knew, but I used to be a financial advisor. And I love that focus on helping people because I think as humans, that is in our nature to focus on how do we help others. I don't think we can live without the dependency on others. You are in the role of Chief Information Officer. What is unique about that and how you help Valmark help those advisors and clients?
Yeah, so I kind of think of like three buckets that I focus on when I'm thinking about how to help Valmark and help those end financial advisors and even end financial clients. So the first and kind of easiest is just operational excellence, right? Taking the kind of the boring out of, or the tedium out of financial services. I mean, you work in forms, you understand how many different forms and data points there are, and filling out that kind of information manually and having manual processes is just, that's not a good use of anyone's time, right? So we try to focus on things that make it easier to do business, both with Valmark for both the clients and the advisors. So that's kind of the first is, number one, just operate efficiently. Number two is mitigating risk, right? So cybersecurity, great example, right? We've seen, or I've seen, everybody's seen kind of the rise of things like ransomware and just, you know, when I first started my career, maybe you get a virus or something like that, but the stakes are much higher now, right? People are getting targeted, large sums of money can be taken from them. So cybersecurity is even more important than it's ever been. And then lastly, really try to help people grow. So help Valmark grow, help bring new advisors to Valmark, and help our advisors also grow with their clients through things like marketing and just different sales tactics and different technology tools they can use.
Man, you just gave me this flashback memory. My first early days, 1993, 1994, working for financial services and passing a floppy disk from one computer to another with a Trojan virus on it was like one of the scariest things to ever happen to you.
Sneaker net, right? Running the data on your sneaker. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was that. And think about how slow that was to propagate too, right? Now we're so connected, everything's so digital. It's so easy for these things to just happen super quick.
Yeah. And so this is something that you specialize in. I mean, in your bio, you've been recognized for this. What do you think is the hardest part about cybersecurity today?
Um, Matching up the risk to where you want to spend money. You could spend an infinite bucket, and there's so many different vendors with so many solutions out there. It's trying to figure out what is the right risk you need to mitigate and the right tools and partners to work with to help you do that. I think that's probably the biggest challenge. And it's ever changing. You could do this risk assessment, a year ago, and then today you reach a totally different decision based on events that have happened, news stories, et cetera. That's probably the biggest challenge.
That's interesting because it reminds me of how you choose a financial advisor, to how you choose any software product, to how you even buy a car. You're trying to match up these different components to how you want to spend your money. I find that to be quite challenging. I mean, even in our company today, we were talking about how do we want to spend our money to build the right product and the right features for people. How do you and your organization choose like what's most important? How do you make that priority list?
This is a great question, and I've talked about this with some others, and that's you need a team, you need a committee, really. And I'm very fortunate. The chief compliancer at Valmark, his name's Doug Wilburn. He has been a phenomenal partner for me in saying you don't have to. This burden is not on you alone. It is on us as a firm, and we're going to work and do this together. So he's helped me build out a whole cybersecurity committee at Valmark, and that includes legal, it includes finance, it includes operations, it includes some HR and technology all together, because each of those different areas have different risks, and we need to figure out what are the most important risks we want to focus on, and as a firm, where are we going to commit resources, both in time and dollars, to help do that. And it also comes to when you're working with financial advisors, right? You need to create policies to help them as well. So what are the right policies? What is being maybe, where are we being too lax? Where do we need to be more aggressive in creating policies to help mitigate the risk and to keep them out of trouble, right? Because they're looking for us to be the experts to help give them guidance in terms of how to stay and keep their clients safe.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking about, a lot of times we talk about customer success and how we help customers win. We measure success, but it seems like in the cyber world, we only measure failure, right? Oh no, somebody had a breach and 10 million records were found. How do you guys measure, and what metrics or what measurements do you use to come up with success in the cyber world?
We look at number of incidents. So we have a certain target that we want to have, less than X number of incidents, right? If we can go a year and not have any incidents, that's great.
Okay. But then you're counting how many failures are acceptable, right? I feel like it may not be the right word. Breaches, an incident maybe is fair, but
yeah. You're trying to look for a more positive metric, like yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, that's probably the most important metric. You could look at certainly some others, but I think in terms of just like top of the house, like to the an ownership team or whatever, that's the end of the day. If you're taking the right steps, you should have fewer incidents.
So forgive me, as a leader, CEO of my company, what I look for is how much stress you reduced for me. Meaning the incidents is great, like lower number, that's awesome. But I wish we could measure this kind of stuff. Let's talk about the other. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say the stress thing is it's hard to know, because it's like, are you not stressed because you're not even aware of the risk, so you're like blissfully ignorant, or you know what I mean, like, or you can also
honestly,
be.
I think that's how it should be. I think we should be able to, like, if I was your advisor, I wouldn't ever want to worry about security. I wouldn't want that to be just like status quo. We have high security, and I sleep at night. I never worry about it.
Yeah,
and so that's what I mean.
The funny thing, Rich, is we actually do things like phishing and security awareness training to actually just give them just a little bit of anxiety, just so that they are aware and vigilant, right? Because I think you can also be sort of too lax, or the biggest thing we found is like people. We talked about wanting to be good servants, good customer service people, help our people. I think a lot of times when I've seen something go wrong, it's not coming from a bad place. It's literally coming from a place of I want to do right by my client. I want to do the best thing, but the bad guys are out there trying to take advantage of all of our good nature.
Yeah. Hey, so let's take a step back. How did you get on this path? What were you doing that made you say, I want to focus on information technologies and operational excellence, et
Thank
cetera?
you. Thank you. Good, great question. So basically, how did I start my career? So I did not want to do anything with computers. I didn't have the internet growing up. I went to college and I thought I was going to be like a counselor, like a psychologist. That's totally what I thought I was going to do. So I got a random roommate in college, and this kid was like, he was a computer science programmer and he owned it. And he taught me so much. And I just thought his world was so fascinating. But I still thought I was going to be like a CFA or a stock picker or something like that. So I got my first job in financial services. I was an econ major. I always loved financial services as well. It was 1999 and Y2K was right around the corner. And I was just fascinated by this idea of the web and being able to connect with people. And I went to this firm and I saw all of these technology problems. And I didn't even realize it, but I kind of had a knack for it, like having a roommate that was a computer science major. And I kind of worked on the web team in college. And I sort of had a knack for it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, your life is so long, really. When you're 20, you think of it being like, what do I want to do every day? And doing technology, it just felt fun. I felt like I was like, I couldn't believe you could get paid to do this. I just thought like, man, that is going to be an awesome life. And I was kind of good at it. So I just saw that I could help people, like my friends that were like having problems. I was like, well, people seem pretty happy and I enjoy doing it. So let's go. So I just taught myself.
How it should be. That's awesome.
Taught myself how to program, kind of wrote a billing application early in my career that was pretty helpful for the firm. And I just haven't looked back since. I feel like I've had fun every day. Obviously there's always stresses in life, but I have thoroughly enjoyed getting to play with technology and help people every day.
I'm sure in those emergency situations where something's going on, you've got a fire to put out, I'm sure everybody around you really appreciates your FM DJ voice. That's the calm, soothing counselor voice coming through at all times.
True. I do tend to be pretty calm until I'm not. So yeah.
Very high threshold before you flip over, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. Except for my kids. That's a different story.
Yeah, I think everybody has that. I think that's really awesome because it's hard to figure out your career when you're early into your career and you fall into something you love and identify it early. I know a lot of people are envious of that. I think it's ironic because I did not want to do computers at all. And I did not understand email in college. I was like, what is this thing? But I love tech as well, obviously.
Yeah, that's so clear. I mean, talking to you the few times, I feel like every time I talk to you, I pick up some new tip. Like even today, you gave me like 3 new tips for technology. I'm like, Rich knows technology.
I dabble. Everybody thinks I'm a gadget guy and they want to buy me the latest gadget. I don't care about gadgets. It's like, what makes me more efficient? That is more important to me. You mentioned you have these 3 kind of legs to the stool of your role. And one of them is how you help your firm grow. What do you think the ways are for an internally focused role like you have? Maybe it's not internally focused, but you're not on the sales team, are you? How do you help your firm grow? What do you think the measures are?
So that is an interesting question. So so we call it recruiting in our world, and it's not like hiring, it's just recruiting new advisors to join us. And that is a whole separate team or committee. And I'm actually part of that committee at Valmark, which is probably an odd for someone in my role. But I've always been interested in marketing. I actually had as a hobby, I had a website that sold fire pits, and I got into like SEO and had some like search rankings in Google for the words fire pit and fire pit. So I got the idea of a funnel. I kind of understood it. So a couple of years ago, we were looking, and the sales team was saying, hey, we need some new technology to help us be more efficient. I'm like, okay, kind of thought about it, did some research. We ended up picking HubSpot. We implemented HubSpot at Valmark for our sales and recruiting team. And I kind of thought I was just going to do the data migration and kind of help them set up the system. And then that was going to be the end of it. But just like one thing turned into another, I kind of saw what they were doing. I had some ideas. They liked some of the ideas. Some of the ideas worked pretty well. And it's just stuck. And I am thrilled to get to do it. And I love that Valmark is so open to letting me be a part of that and just try and experiment different things. So that's been probably one of my favorite things that I've gotten to do in the last couple of years is help that team.
That's great. It's really great to hear that you have those different perspectives and kind of fingers in the pie of your company. I don't know if you share this or not, but I mean, Gartner Group, Microsoft, McKinsey recently put out an article about this, have said that the companies that focus on a better customer experience are the ones that actually influence and drive growth in their businesses. And so that's why I didn't ask you about operational excellence first, because I think I want to see if you see a tie between building operational excellence and the customer experience, and then what you're doing out to help grow. Is there a correlation in your mind?
Yes, 100%. So I'll say probably in 2018, we had a big initiative. We called it our My Case initiative, and you kind of referenced it earlier in the call. And the simple goal of that project was make it easier for advisors to do business with us, right? Get data from them to us simply as possible. And I'd say prior to that, we did not do as good a job as we could have, and that made it, there was a lot of friction, and it made it difficult for our advisors to work with us. But we kind of just, from a big corporate perspective, right? And that My Case team, it represents people in technology, people in testing, people from the business units, business analysts, business owners, all coming together to figure out, like, your world, like, what are the best forms? How do you structure your form? How do you get the data? How do you organize this to make it as easy as possible for them? And, and then that's going to lead to, hey, I have a great experience. I'm happy as a customer, less fire drills. And then I'm more willing to talk to somebody else about it. I mean, one of the things I really learned from you, Rich, was kind of the power of a net promoter score and how you can use that in your business. And that starts with giving a great experience, right? If you don't have a great experience, it's tough to grow. Either through testimonials or one of the biggest ways to grow is through referrals, right? So if they don't have a great experience, it's going to be harder to grow. So
I forgot we had talked about NPS way back when. So did you guys implement that? And if so, how? What segments did you go after?
Yeah, so we did. I came back, I talked about it, and we absolutely did. So we kind of have this goal of what we call 85-85, which is we want an 85 net promoter score from our people that sort of like own the practice of these advisory firms, and then an 85 engagement score from our internal employees, right? So it's the idea of like, hey, you got to treat your employees right so that they can then give good service to your customers. So we're focused on the 85. So in this last year, our most recent survey, we had from what we called our member firm principals, we had a rating of 90 for our net promoter score, and members overall was 76.
Wow.
So, and then staff engagement of an 87 with our most recent engagement. So I'd say that it's pretty good. So we're pretty happy with that. I'd say at times we can get a little bit kind of hard on ourselves. Like, we really like to please. And if someone has an incident, sometimes we're like, oh my gosh, so-and-so is upset. Like, what can we do to fix that? And it's like, well, it just happens sometimes too.
Yeah.
So, but we are laser focused. Yeah.
I don't have a baseline then for the people you're measuring. What do you think your peers are doing, or what is a good score for what
I don't
you're doing?
know. That's a great question. I would love to see some other independent broker dealers to see what their score is like to get a better benchmark, but I will, I want to actually come out with a new score. So this is kind of a funny story. We, we're small, right? Like in some areas, larger independent BDs are going to compete much better. They're better capitalized. They've got even more tech, et cetera. So it's tough. So they'll say something like, we'll pick up the phone in 37 seconds on average whenever you call us. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know if we can compete with 37 seconds, but I want to go with the hug metric. So we just finished building a new patio at Valmark, and we invited some of our local offices to come celebrate this opening with us. And it's also our 60th anniversary at Valmark. So it was kind of and we're going to have a separate party for our 60th, but it was a moment to pause and be grateful and be thankful for everyone that's helped build the business. And I was just shocked that so many local member firms came up to me and just gave me a hug. And I was just like, man, I think our measure for success might be the hug metric. Like, how many other advisors in the relationship with their home office do they walk up, and how many people would they feel comfortable hugging at that firm? So I think we also, in addition to our NPS, I want to start measuring the hug metric. So maybe this year at our annual conference, I'm going to put on social media how many hugs I get from our advisors.
Oh, no. You're going to hold up the sign, free hugs.
Free hugs, yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's put out a call to the industry. Let's have all the broker dealers put out their NPS scores measured against advisor satisfaction, and a hug score. I want to know that one for sure.
Yeah, hug score. Yeah.
And all the introverts are saying, no, I don't want to hug.
Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Yeah.
No, that's really awesome. There's different metrics. Like SaaS companies, a 55 is a really good score. And our score has been 83, 84. And I mean, we're ecstatic about that. I don't know if we would ever get to 90 or 95. And your goal of 85, I think, is fantastic. Yeah, that's really, really awesome. So I'm also curious then, when you think about, building this customer experience, how long does it take you?
Man, I think it takes longer and it takes more people than you would think. I think when I was younger, I would think like 1 or 2 years. Right now, I think it takes much longer. And I think in my arrogance, I thought I could do more of it by myself, right? I'm typical Gen Xer, independent. I got this, I can do this. And I think what I found is, the best is to get other people involved. Kind of like I've said, being on part of teams, getting other people involved, admitting you don't have all the answers, finding people that do, empowering them to help, make good decisions, bring their input, because everyone's getting all these inputs, and no one person is going to be able to collect enough data to create a great experience. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just in being patient. But in software, right, you want to deliver iteratively, right? So picking the points that you think are going to be the biggest point, putting things out there, and continuing to evolve. One of the things, you know this, but like, not thinking about things in terms of projects, but thinking about them in terms of products. And I know you get that as a software vendor, but I think sometimes internal groups, we tend to probably think in projects, and we also need to think in products. I know that's a big Gartner thing. But I think that's been a helpful mindset. When I talk about my case, like, that's not a project, that's an ongoing product that we have that needs feed, care, and helping, and it needs feedback loops, right, from customers, and continuous improvement and evolution.
Yeah. We actually struggle with this all the time. I mean, just in the last 2 weeks, we've been rehashing a product design. And I actually said something to the effect of, are we trying to bend the product into what we can do with our current tech? Or do we want to build the right experience for the customer? And it's a big difference, because it feels like we're building a road from here to there, but we didn't realize there's a river in the middle and we have to build a bridge. And we didn't realize there was a tunnel that needed to be built. And we didn't realize there's a bunch of trees that need to be knocked down. And we're just like, well, we laid out the plans to build the road. Oh, wait. And so now it's a question of, like, do you go around those things? Do you find a natural bridge? What do you do? Or do you stop and say, okay, we're not going to get to that endpoint. We're going to build the tunnel. We're going to clear the trees. We're going to add the bridge, and then build the road. And it's so frustrating. I don't know if you and your team go through those frustrating moments too.
Yeah. I mean, especially in any company, I've seen some of these, pictures on LinkedIn of, like, I call them cloud first firms. And then they've got, like, the legacy companies that are like 60 years old, like us, that you have a lot of legacy considerations, right? It's not as easy to move fast, right? You've made past decisions, previous decision, tech debt, whatever you want to call it. That also factors in and makes it easy, or makes it difficult. You can't be quite as nimble as you'd like.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I want to bring up another topic, which is one of my favorites. And I know, because you like to tinker with tech, that you're going to have some cool answers about this. Let's talk about artificial intelligence briefly.
Okay.
So how do you see AI changing or impacting customer experience, how you deliver service, how investors get service, anything that you want, but how do you see it impacting your world?
Wow, man, I feel like 2023 is the year of AI, right? ChatGPT just blew the doors off. I think part of it is coming and saying, I don't know yet. I still think there is just so much evolution. It's happening so fast. It's a little bit hard to tell. But two things to think about. The first is, I think there are a lot of, everyone's throwing the AI label on their product, right?
Yeah.
And what is real data science, and what is just, lipstick on a pig, or just some fancy cover that they're using the AI. So I think for your average person, that's very difficult to decipher, right? And then what are people doing with that data, right? Where is it going? How is it getting used into models? Is it safe? And then the other thing that I found really interesting, I'm going to credit Meredith Lambert from Catchlight for helping me understand this, is firms are now understanding that their data is very valuable. So for example, we just heard stories coming out of Reddit, coming out of Twitter. They're either saying, you can't publicly scrape our data, or you're going to have to pay a very, very expensive API fee. And I think they haven't really said it publicly, but I think part of this is they found that their data is very valuable, and these large language models were using it, and they were getting a free ride, and now they're getting all the benefit from it. So I think we're going to start to see a shift of kind of power maybe from some of the tools to some of the people that actually have the data. So that's interesting. And then I'm most excited for, in terms of how does the customer win with this? Get back to your original question. I got a little off tangent here. I think in the categories of things like advice engagement, there's tons of opportunity, right? So if I'm a whatever, maybe I don't have a lot of money per se, but you know my age, maybe you know my net worth, maybe you know a couple key data points. Systems have been built that can then give me very targeted advice, or can help my advisor give me the advice I need, especially if I'm maybe a B or C client, right? Maybe I'm not the A client. Maybe they don't have enough time with me, but I think some of those advice engagement tools could be very interesting to leverage AI and provide good insight into those like specific key moments that matter for people.
Yeah. I share your sentiment that there's a lot of confusion, especially with marketing labels on products. And I ask myself, is this really AI or not? And AI is a very broad kind of framework. And some will argue there is no such thing as AI, actual sentience and artificial intelligence. It's just different models, right? So I kind of categorize it like this. There are products that you're already using that are going to get better because there's going to be AI injected into them by the manufacturer of that product.
Yeah.
Right? Like Microsoft Word's only going to get better. It's going to write more and more for you as you go. But then there's other things like you buy a specific AI-driven tool to solve a new problem that you haven't solved before. I just found out from my forms team, we took an AI tool that is robotic process automation, and we've automated a task that they've been asking me for a decade to streamline. It's too complicated to streamline. And the AI is just like, click, click, wait, click, click, wait, click, submit, done.
Yeah.
And we drove our cost down to $3 an hour with this AI.
Wow. That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible.
So I
think, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think some of that's hard to predict, right?
Yeah.
And some of it's very much in the weeds, and it's just somebody sitting at their job and just going, hey, what about this? And it just pops out.
So that's one of the things that I'm trying to instill in people. And I'm wondering if you think the same way, or if you're trying something different. How do you get people on your team to have the mindset to try out some tools, to see if it'll benefit them, to see if they can make their jobs easier, better, faster? Or do you find people are reluctant to do that for any reason?
Great question. And I tend to not think of, this is where management comes into place, right? I think it's very easy. I've sat at even some big companies, and I've heard people, especially in my kind of role, just like complain about people not being innovative or whatever. And I'm like, well, but as a manager or as a leader, did you create the space for them to be innovative, or did you load them up on so many other tasks that you just said to them, basically go be innovative? Or even if you provided the tools, did you provide the environment that allows them to experiment too, and to fail, right? And that's tough. And you can't have everybody have kind of infinite playtime, but how do you as a leader, how do you manage or kind of carve that out for people intentionally so that they have the opportunity to experiment? And I do think that's more of a leadership problem than an individual contributor problem.
I think that's important to recognize. And, given that you love tech and you're willing and wanting to try different things, it's easy for you to say, oh, I'm going to spend 10 minutes trying this, or 30 minutes or whatever. I don't think everybody thinks that way. I think a lot of people say, you gave me a job to do, I'm doing it. I'm doing it the way I was trained to do it. They're not thinking, oh, I should make this better, faster, easier. I should go try new tools. So how do you help them make that space?
Good question. I do think you got to carve it out, right? Like you got to, in some place, like I have to recognize, like, people like myself are going to be more willing to experiment. And I think I just asked them, like, and some of it's like knowing their roles and what they do. So it does take some leadership, somebody experimenting and go, hey, I think this, like, do you do this? I think you kind of, is that what you do? Yeah, that is kind of what I do. Hey, I think there's this thing that's kind of like this. Would you be willing to, can we work with your manager? Can we try this? And 9 times out of 10, people are definitely willing to try. But they just might need a little bit of guidance and help to experiment. It's not their first thought. So
yeah, I think that part of my role in being an innovator is to try to bring people to new ideas. And so I'll send my marketing team, hey, I just found this thing, actually helps me with podcasts, potentially. Try it out. Tell me if it works. Should we use it? And just giving them the ideas and saying, go try it, I think is a helpful way to get them involved.
Yeah.
Look, as we wrap this up, I have another question for you. But
Mhm.
before I ask it, I want to help people connect with you, Geoff. So what's the best way for people to find you?
Best way is LinkedIn. I'm kind of a LinkedIn junkie. So I like hanging out on LinkedIn. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I pretty much connect with everybody. I should probably be more discerning, but I'm not. So I love to connect with you. I love to see what you're up to, what you're interested, follow your posts. Especially if you're in financial services, for sure. Financial services and tech, like, let's definitely connect and talk.
Awesome. Well, there's your invite, everybody. All right. So Geoff, here's my last question. Who has had the biggest impact on your leadership style or how you approach your role?
This is going to sound corny, but my mom.
Nice.
She's been an executive in the building construction industry, vinyl siding for a long time, and she is just an absolute tiger of a lady. I've learned a ton from her. And then I would also say the executive team at Valmark, including owner Larry Ribka, my current boss Caleb Callahan. They've been extremely supportive in terms of helping me grow my career, helping me learn, helping me become a better leader. So shout out to all those people.
I love it. And shout out to the moms. Did you know that my mom and I started this business together?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
How was your mom involved?
Well, she's a technologist first.
Really?
And when I was an advisor, I went to her and said, hey, we should build something. You build it, and then I'll do the sales and marketing and keep doing financial planning. The truth is, she was so busy with her consulting clients, she never found the time to build it. So I did. I said, you know what? I'm just going to build it. I did it over Christmas, by the way. I'm going to just build it. And then we worked on it together and we said, okay, we got something here. Let's build a company together. So she invested, she worked super hard. Huh. And the hardest part for me was calling her Cheryl instead of mom in front of clients.
That would be hard.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. I loved hearing that story.
I just love that you made a shout out to your mom. I think that's so awesome.
Yeah. She still works. She's 73 and she still works. Still working.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Geoff, I want to say thank you. Geoff Moore, CIO of Valmark Financial Group. Thank you for being on this episode of The Customer Wins. Go check out Geoff's company website at valmarkfg.com. And don't forget to check out Quik at quickforms.com, where we take the work out of paperwork. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. We'll click the like button. Hey, share this with someone if you liked it that much. And subscribe to our channels for future episodes of The Customer Wins. Geoff, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Rich.
Thanks for listening to the Customer Wins podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.